to be in two places at once tonight, which I will inevitably fail at. We have a board meeting in the next room, and we're passing the budget, so I kind of have to be there for that. Well, I hope we're passing the budget. If not, please turn off the lights when you're done. I'm so pleased to be able to do this evening, and so thankful, even on a rainy and cold night, that you all came out to hear Rabbi Vurgan and to hear about Israel before, and the reform movement in Israel before October 7 and after October 7, and the important work that Arts of Canada and the reform movement in Israel is doing. I don't want to say our values, I want to say Jewish values. They are not unique to us as Reform Jews. They are the values of the Jewish people that maybe sometimes the rest of our people overlook or disregard. But before we get to that, I do want to point out what the postcard is that's beneath your tuchus, probably. As you've heard us talk over the years, Arts of Canada is an important partner in the World Zionist Congress, and I hope I'm getting all these acronyms right, I think so. And a vote that takes place every 5 years, is it? 3? Every 4 years. I was going to be wrong. Every 4 years that helps apportion money that is raised towards projects of the Jewish people in Israel. And here is where our Reformed Jewish values find their voice, but they only find their voice if you have registered to have your voice and your vote count. So what is critically important, you don't actually have to show up to vote for anything, but your $18 or your $36 does need to. I think it's 18. I don't know, 18. So there is a website on here, a QR code, that you can go online and make an $18 contribution to Arts of Canada, and in doing so, you will become a member of this larger block of progressive Jews in Canada. And the way that the votes are apportioned for the Canadian Jewish community is based on our representation in this larger pool. So truthfully, your every vote counts, and your membership is a critical part of that. We have been underrepresented for the importance of these votes and initiatives in Israel. Oftentimes, the ultra-Orthodox groups who are also part of this process will collude or band together, choose your term. And so it's very important that Reformed Jewish communities, conservative Jewish communities across Canada unite in this effort. So it starts with registering to vote. So I'm going to ask you, please, not only, even before you hear what Yael has to say tonight, but certainly when you hear what she has to say and the important work that Arts of Canada is doing and the reform movement in Israel is doing, that you register to vote so that we can have our voices heard in Israel. So please, please do that. And with that, I'm going to ask Shirley Hyman, who is a member of our Israel Engagement Committee and also our Arts of Canada rep, to come up and introduce the rabbi. And I'm going to duck into the boardroom. Thanks.
I'll just add one quick thing before I introduce the rabbi. Usually the memberships begin at the end of June. That's the year cycle. But if you register in May and June, this will be good till the end of June 2025. Yes. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So Rabbi Yael Vurgan, who I have gotten to know a little bit, grew up in a secular family in Rishon LeZion, and she has morphed into an accomplished leader in the field of contemporary Reform Judaism. With a BA in Jewish thought and Hebrew literature and a master's in contemporary Judaism, both from Hebrew University of Jerusalem, she had a solid academic background for rabbinical studies. She served as a student rabbi for Kehilat HaShachar in Even Yehuda, which I think is just east of Netanya. Yeah? She was ordained in 2018 by the rabbinic program at Hebrew Union College, HUC in Jerusalem, and she joins 126 Israeli Reform rabbis that now serve 52 Reform progressive congregations, schools, and communities in Israel. Today, Yael serves as the regional rabbi in the Sha'ar HaNegev Regional Council, one of the severely, if not most affected areas of Israel after October 7th. In addition to her role as the regional rabbi, Rabbi Vurgan has demonstrated her commitment to social causes by actively participating in peace and coexistence initiatives. She's a former board member of Rabbis for Human Rights and a dues-paying member of Standing Together, Omdim Biachad.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Did anybody lose an AirPod case? No AirPods in it. Yes? Maybe? Anyone? Empty case.
Okay. So, Rabbis for Human Rights and Omdim Biachad, which if anyone is interested, you can see either myself or Avi over there, and we can let you know what's going on here. And she has contributed to promoting justice and equality in Israel. She's the proud mother of 2 boys. Rabbi Vurgan resides in Modi'in, not far from Jerusalem, and until October 7th, she characterized herself as the happiest rabbi in the world. Tonight, she's going to bring us the story of the heartbreak and the resilience of the Sha'ar HaNegev community of the Israel Reform Movement. So please welcome Yael. Thank you.
That's it. I don't have to say anything else. That's enough. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Shirley, for all your efforts to bring me here, and for Arta. And also thank you, all of you, for what I see as a very strong partnership that you have with us. Reform Jews here and Reform Jews in Israel. We work together, and my work is, being possible thanks to your support. And as you will see, and I hope and I know that I will convince you that this is the most effective and just cause to be partners with and to support. And as you said, why was I the happiest rabbi? Because I'm going to tell you the story of my congregation. It's a very unique congregation. It's not a regular community. And you know what? When I was ordained, it was 5.5 years ago, I didn't really want that job. I wanted something else. I wanted a more regular community. I wanted to be sent to a place like this, with a sanctuary and a building and a board and board meetings and all of that. But I didn't get that. And the Israeli Reform Movement tell me, why don't you go to Sha'ar HaNegev? And I said, what is this? I didn't even know the area. I don't live there. I live in the center of Israel. And I didn't know anyone in that area. And I didn't know what this role is about, because it's a weird kind of rabbinic work, because it's a regional congregation. It's not a synagogue-based congregation. You get it? And it's also a very secular area. So people are not so much into synagogue. And so how do we bring progressive Judaism to an area like that? It's the periphery of Israel. Although I'm going to tell you how my own personal life story and identity kind of helped me to do this job, because as again Shirley told you, I was born and raised in a secular family and secular environment. And so later on in my life, I started my journey into the Jewish world, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't learn when going to a regular secular Israeli school. And so I got really, really involved in spiritual Jewish life, which I wasn't when I was growing up. But I think deep down inside, my DNA is still very secular. And so I have a lot of empathy and a lot of understanding to the people that I serve. And I respect their secularism and their way of life and their values, and that enabled me. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I didn't want the job because I didn't know anything about it, but a few months already into that job, I was in love. I was in love with the area, with the people, with the specific kind of rabbinic work, which really is very pioneer, like very, have to be very initiative and proactive, and it's all about reaching out to people. And apparently I found that it's really appropriate. I mean, the movement did a good shidduch over here, which I couldn't anticipate at the beginning. And also enables me a lot of freedom and a lot of independence in the way that I run this community. And so I hope that you will fall in love also, and you'll understand why I was the happiest rabbi, and now I call myself the bereaved rabbi, because in my congregation only we have over 80 casualties of October 7th, and of course many more people who were affected in many different ways, and we're going to talk about the hostages and all of that. So it's a lot of people, 84 or 85, depends how you count them, but from this one very small region in Israel. So this whole region is about 9,000 residents, and I serve 10 kibbutzim. I'll show you a map in a minute. But you have to understand that these 10 kibbutzim are like one big family, okay? Because they marry each other, and the kids go to the same regional school, and so everybody knows these 80-something people who died, and so it's a lot of people. It's a big loss. It's a big trauma, and I didn't know what to do as a rabbi, and the congregants taught me. I mean, one of the lessons this event taught me is just a lot of humbleness and knowing that I don't know a lot, and that I have to let the people lead me in how to be the rabbi in times like this, because rabbinic school doesn't teach you that. Nothing can prepare you to be the spiritual supporter and the spiritual first responder in events like this. Nothing. So I'm going to tell you the story of how I learned what to do. And again, I see you as my partners, so I'm telling you this story because we are a big family, and I think it's important that you know from firsthand what we're dealing with, and also get to know the faces around, behind the stories and the numbers of all of that. All right, so let's begin. I hope you can all see that. And I'm going to show you one thing here, and that, wait a minute, is this working? Yeah. Do you see that logo? It says Kehilat Sha'ar HaNegev, that's my congregation. Sha'ar means the gates, and Negev is the south part of Israel, right? So it's the beginning of the Negev. The Negev is about 60% of the territory of Israel is a desert called the Negev, and the north part of it, where you start getting into the south, okay, that's the gate to the Negev. So Sha'ar HaNegev is the name. And you see, this logo actually was created before I started working there. There was another rabbi, also called Yael. We only take Yaels for this job. Was the rabbi of this region about 5 years before I started. And so I inherited this logo. At the beginning, I didn't understand it because, as I told you, I didn't know the area. I said, what is this red flower all about, okay? So remember that red flower. You're going to go back to it. It's a very important symbol of the area. It took me a while to learn the English name. It's called the anemone flower, right? It's like this fragile, very gentle flower, like this poppy seed, a little different, but it looks the same. And so how come that became the logo of the congregation? It's interesting, and we will kind of go along with that flower. But before that, I want to show you another logo, and that's the one over here. And that's the logo of the municipality, of the regional, well, it's not a municipality like a city, but it's more a regional council. And you have to understand, I work there on behalf of the Israeli Reform Movement. So I'm not a worker of this regional council, but I have a good cooperation with them. And it's really important that I have this cooperation with the regional council. And they love our activity, and they opened the doors for me when I started working there. And the Regional Council of Sha'ar HaNegev has a logo with what you see there. You see a field, right? You see a field, and you see the kibbutz houses and the blue in the background. So that's also symbolic, because this area of Israel is really agricultural-based, economy, and a lot of these kibbutzim still work the land, and that's an important part to understand who these people are. These people are very secular on one hand. On the other hand, they're very, very Zionist in the meaning that they're connected to the land and to the place, and they work the land. And it's also earned the name of being like the breadbasket of Israel, because they're growing wheat, and they're growing potatoes, and they're growing carrots and garlic. So sometimes if I go to one kibbutz and I officiate anything, a ceremony or a Kabbalat Shabbat, and they want to give me a gift to take home, so I would go home with a bag of garlic or avocado or whatever they grow there as a present. And this is why I really see the connection of people, very strong connection of these people to the land and to the fact that they're working the land until the last centimeter possible to the fence. And also, it's important to understand that the kibbutzim, although privatized and went through many changes in the last decades, but still the people living in kibbutz have a very strong sense of community. They don't even need me. Like I think in cities, we see that people come to congregations because they want a community life and they're looking to be with others. But in the kibbutz, it's not that. It's, they don't need me, they have a community. Every kibbutz is a community. So I have to be creative and gentle and smart, how to kind of merge with their community life and not compete with it, or not, try to do something which is gonna, be something they don't need. So I need to find a way to bring the content and the messages and the spirit that I want to bring into their life community. So again, it's not a synagogue where I sit and I expect people to come and listen to me, because they won't, okay? Rather, I'm like this wandering rabbi sitting in my car all day, driving from one kibbutz to another, and asking the kibbutz to open the yellow gate so I can, it's a symbol, this yellow gate, to go in and to have me do things with them. So I need cooperation from the people in the kibbutz. I need them to know me. I need them to trust me. And I need to do things really from grassroots, from the people, from the community, and to merge with them. So when I started working in the area, me being a city girl all my life, I lived in big cities and I didn't know anything about agricultural work. People told me, you have to come and see our Shavuot celebrations. And so I went, and who spoke to me about Ruchama before? So this is in Kibbutz Ruchama. I went there, it was 2019, to their Shavuot celebration. And you see it says Shavuot on that entrance that they built. And what they do is, in Shavuot, so we think Shavuot is Chag Matan Torah, is when we celebrate the Torah and all of that. Not for them, okay? For them, it's like the biblical times. It's a holiday a festival for the harvest of the wheat, which they still grow until today. So they went back to the most basic, ancient level of the holiday. And, our holidays, the three, what do you call regalim? Like Shavuot, Sukkot, and Pesach. These are, on the basic level, agriculture. Later on, they had other meanings put on them, but at the beginning, they were all agriculture, nature holidays. And so the kibbutzim are still celebrating it this way. So all the kibbutz, you can see, coming down to the field, sitting there, families, children, hundreds of people. And then there's a stage that they built, and all the in the middle of the wheat field. And they're really celebrating, and they're showing. I was so shocked. I was like a kid when I looked at that, because there's these machines, and they go just in front of your eyes and then demonstrate to everybody how they cut the wheat in the wheat fields of the kibbutz. And you know what? I think that's lovely. I mean, it's a not religious kind of a holiday, but they're really connected to that idea that we're working the land, we're getting bread out of this land. And it's beautiful. And the way that I can merge into that and maybe bring some more spiritual Jewish content into the holiday, like you know how they take the babies, bikurim, like their firstborn or your first fruit. So the kibbutzim are showing, and those celebrations, all the babies that were born in the kibbutz from last Shavuot, and it's like Lion King. They're like putting them up, and showing them to the public. And I think this is an opportunity for me to kind of merge in and say, let's say a blessing, or let's do something with it. But you understand, I have to understand who these people are and what their lives look like. You can, by the way, stop me and say something or ask questions. It's okay. It doesn't have to be that formal. Okay, now remember the red flower. Here we are back again. This is how this area looks like 1 month a year, the month of February. And I don't know how the flowers know exactly when they are supposed to come out. So every year, in the month of February, the whole area is filled with this anemone flower. and people come from all of Israel to see this and to walk around and to take pictures with the flowers and everything. And the rest of the year, in the summer now, everything is yellow because of the wheat field. So it's a good time to come in the winter and to see all the hills green and the flowers. And again, with a big heartbreak, I'm sharing with you the picture of the mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev, Ophir Liebstein, Zichro Livracha. That was one of the first people to be murdered on October 7th. He lives in Kfar Aza. He went out of his house to the armory to get the weapons to kind of protect the kibbutz, along with the members of the kibbutz that are part of the civil command team, civil protection team of the kibbutz. Every kibbutz has a group like that. And immediately he was shot. And we, about, I think, 8:30 or 9, we already got the message. So it was very early in that day that we knew that he's gone. He was 50 years old and just an amazing person. He started being the mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev when I started being the rabbi there. So I had a lot of cooperation with him and good work relationship. And he was a man of people, and he loved people. And he was also a man of peace and vision. He had this amazing vision and project that he started working for to build this huge industrial park in the Erez Crossing for the Gaza people to come and work. And can't tell you how much we're all mourning his loss. Just a wonderful, wonderful leader. And so one of the things he did is he initiated, along with his wife Vered, we'll see later, this festival called Darom Adom. So Darom means the south, and Adom is red. Oh, I was supposed to tell you that before. Wait, no, okay. So red, now you understand that Darom Adom, okay? So red has a lot of meanings in Sha'ar HaNegev. There's the good red, this is the good red, and there's the bad red. Why? Because when they have rocket attacks for many, many years, and the alarms for the rockets, when they go on, it's not like wee, but it says Tseva Adom. Tseva Adom, that's what. And then and when you hear those words, Tseva Adom means color red, you need to run to the shelter. And the kibbutzim differ from each other, depends how far close they are to the fence. If you have 3 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds, and and on. So to get to the safe room when you hear that Tseva Adom. So people would always talk about the Adom, the red, that there's this. So Fear started a festival called Darom Adom, the good red. So it means that on the month of February, people would come to the area to see the red flowers, and there would be all kind of fairs and activities for families, and you go around and you shop and you travel, and it's like a beautiful, beautiful festival during that month. And also, he would present the area to people visiting. Let's say you come to visit, and you would meet Ophir, and he would tell you, you know, how people love living there, although they were suffering from security problems for so many years. But still, there were waiting lists to live in those kibbutzim. And people said, we live 95% of the time in heaven, and 5% it's hell. That kind of twisted on October 7th. But he always said that, it's 95% heaven. And it's really a special area with a special kind of good vibe to the people and to the views and the nature, and just really, really a lovely region. And I'm going to show you now so you understand where is it in Israel. And so you see here, can you see that? That's the city of Sderot. And the region that I work with, Sha'ar HaNegev, is just around Sderot. So Erez crossing that I talked about is here. This is Kibbutz Erez. That's one of the kibbutzim I work with. And then here there's some others that are a little further from the fence. And in the south, here there is Mefalsim, Kfar Aza, Nachal Oz. So you can see Nachal Oz, that's one of the kibbutzim that I'm going to talk to you about. See how close it is to the fence. It's less than 1 kilometer. It's 800 meters from the fence of Gaza. And Kfar Aza also, less than 1 kilometer from the fence. These are the two kibbutzim that were severely, severely attacked and hurt. The rest of the kibbutzim managed, even Mefalsim and Gevim, some kibbutzim that are, the terrorists did reach to the kibbutz, but they didn't manage to come in because they managed to fight them away. So only Kfar Aza and Nachal Oz are the two kibbutzim in my region that were invaded. But you can see the whole purple area is the invasion area. It's all where the terrorists reached. You can see they reached pretty far, because Ofakim right here, it's very far. And all the way there, they managed to get. South of where I work, there's another big region, huge region, here, called Eshkol. And many of the kibbutzim, you might have heard the names like Nir Oz and Be'eri and Nirim are located in that region. I don't work a lot there. I did get some people turning to me because they don't have a progressive rabbi and they knew that Sha'ar HaNegev has. So I get some families through the years that I worked with, but most of my work was in the kibbutzim, the 10 kibbutzim of Sha'ar HaNegev. Now the Israeli Reform Movement wants to send a rabbi to Eshkol because it turns out that there's a lot of need there. I don't know if they'll manage to find something. It's really far. Nobody lives in that area, and it demands a long commute. But I wanted to tell you that the Israeli Reform Movement sending rabbis in the last decade, let's say, to all the ends of Israel, it's really different than what it was in the beginning of the Israeli Reform Movement, when we really put most of the efforts in the big cities, when you have a good chance for good turnout from people to come in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Ra'anana, even in my city, in Modi'in. We have large, fairly large, not that large, but in Israel terms, large Reform communities. And about a decade ago, after we won the Supreme Court appeal about the Miri Gold case about Gaza, having representatives of non-Orthodox streams in the regional councils, the Reform Movement got some government support to our salary, which has never happened before, that non-Orthodox rabbis get funded by the government. And so we had this interest of making as many regional rabbis, because this is only for regional rabbis. And so we have 13 out of those 52 congregations now that are rabbis working like I work in this, periphery area of Israel with very small communities. And many people were not sure that was such a good idea. What are we sending rabbis to work in the north border and the south border? And you know what? Nobody is asking any more questions about it today, because it's clearly that the fact that we have a progressive Jewish presence and representatives in those areas really enables us now to spiritually serve and support the people of those areas that got affected, both in the north and the south. And I think it was one of the most smart and justified move of the movement to send the rabbis to be regional rabbis, which again is very different rabbinic work. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. And now I'm going to show you, this picture is taken from Kfar Aza towards Gaza. Kfar Aza is one of the kibbutzim, and that's the fence of the kibbutz, one of the gates that were broken at that day. But you can see the proximity. You can see really there's a field, and that's it. And that's the Sajaiya neighborhood of Gaza. Here's another form of it, but you can see, you can walk that distance. It's really, really close. Can you see well? Yeah, I hope. Where? Yeah, let's go back there for a minute. Yeah, the white, yeah. So the buildings are just one of the neighborhoods of the Gaza city, and it's right there. It's right there on the kibbutz. So, I think some of the terrorists actually crossed by foot when they broke the fence. And so what does it mean to be an Israeli citizen that the state sent you to live by the border, and you have those border communities that are risking their lives living there, but loving the place and loving the land and hoping for the state or thinking that they have this contract with the state that we live there, and you will hear the residents, that's the story they tell. They say, we thought we had this contract. We live by the border, and we raise our kids here, and we work the land, and you, Israel, is protecting us and making sure that we are secure here. And that also broke that day, the faith and the understanding and the belief and the agreement that they thought they had with the state that is protecting their lives over there. Now I want you to meet Dani Rachamim. He's a member of Nachal Oz kibbutz. He was working many years in the fields of the kibbutz, and then he became the spokesman of the kibbutz. And so when we have groups coming, like you, from Jewish communities around the world coming to visit the area, I take them to meet Dani, and he's taking them around the fence of the kibbutz, and he's showing them also, you see, he's showing them just the Gaza neighborhoods around, behind the fence, and he's telling them about the fields and how they work the fields even outside the fence of the kibbutz. And he's also, I remember him telling all the groups how confident he feels because he knows that we built those fences that are very sophisticated fences, and millions and billions of shekels or dollars, or I don't know what, were put into building those sophisticated fences, and also under the ground and above the ground and electric and all the, preventing all these concrete under the ground to prevent the tunnels and all of that. And that whole conception completely failed that day because the fence was broken in about half an hour. It took them to go by with a tractor. And so I thought the whole idea that fences can bring us security and that's what we should put our efforts in, building more and more sophisticated fences. I think we all understand that it cannot sustain itself. It's not the concept that we need. We'll talk about it later. I want to tell you one other thing about Dani. He's really a wonderful person. You remember I told you before, if I want to work in Nachal Oz, I need a partner from inside who really wants Kabbalot Shabbat in the kibbutz. And I found him. I found Dani. And Dani comes from a traditional family. When he found the Reform movement, he was really happy because it helped him to form his own Jewish identity in a way that he felt good with. And he's a wonderful partner, so he's doing with me the Kabbalot Shabbat. I come there, and he's organizing. You see, there's no synagogue, right? So people ask me, do you have a synagogue? No. Where do I do it? Some kibbutzim have synagogues, and I can officiate bar bat mitzvah in there. But most of the activity, like a Kabbalat Shabbat, I would do in a members club of the kibbutz. So there's no bima, and it's very informal, and we just sit in a circle. And it's lovely. It's a very warm environment. It's really communal, intimate environment. And so when I come there, Dani's organizing all the place, and he brings the candles and the challah and everything, and I bring my musician and the words, and we do a beautiful ceremony. You know what? And I let Dani say the Dvar Torah. So the not bima that I don't have, I clear it for him to come up and say his words about the parasha. And I'm telling you this because I want to share with you a little bit the work that I was doing before October 7th, before we go to what happened after, okay? So you know what, this is also maybe the minute to kind of give those out. So you can just glance and see what kind of activity can I do with very secular people living in 10 kibbutzim in the area where I work? How can I develop their sense of being liberal, progressive Jews in Israel and connecting to Jewish identity in a way that is not contradicting their way of life and that it's not forced on them. You know, many secular people, especially in the kibbutzim, are kind of rejecting or, you know, they're even afraid of everything that looks a little too much religious to them because, you know, because of the Orthodox dominancy in Israel and how Jewish Orthodox identity is sometimes forced upon secular people. And so, again, if I want to help them to connect to Jewish meaningful life, I have to be careful and I have to respect their values and their way of lives and come to them and not oppose things on them, but really suggest and do it together with them. So my way of being their rabbi is not so much, you know, I love teaching, but sometimes I love learning from them, and especially after October 7th, I stopped teaching completely. I just listen to them and I let them teach their lessons. And Danny, having this traditional background, you know, he's good in this. He can really good, and he's the one that is doing Kabbalot Shabbat in the Hostages Square in Tel Aviv every Friday. The people of Nachal Oz, of that kibbutz, I'll tell you more about it, are going there every Friday afternoon, and he's leading Kabbalot Shabbat. So I started it with him, but then I let him lead it, and it's fine. I think that when the congregant starts to lead events independently, I see this as an achievement. I think it's a great thing. I think it's, I want to give him the stage. So that's Danny, and I'm just sharing with you a little bit his family story, because the one with the black t-shirt, that's his daughter, Karine, and she was about to marry her partner, Naama, and that was the first gay wedding in the kibbutz. And that was, I think, 4 years ago. And we had a Pride Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat in the kibbutz, and we greeted them under the talit, and we sang. I think Rabbi Rick Jacobs was there that Shabbat with us, because it was again after some kind of a round of war or attack or something. I can't even remember which one, but he always comes after we have some kind of round of violence, and he was there with us. And then that's what happened. They got a baby. And so Naama on the left became, and she comes also from a Haredi upbringing, and she was so happy to find out that there is progressive Judaism that not only accepts her, but she can celebrate her identity. She doesn't have to give up their Jewish identity or her gay identity. This can work together. She was in tears when she first found out that we do Pride Kabbalot Shabbat in Sha'ar HaNegev. And so she became my partner. When I want to do a Pride Kabbalat Shabbat, I'll do it with her, because she knows the community, the gay community of the area. She invites the people. And then I have a partner from the inside to do it with. And you see, we have this is the logo of the Reform Israeli movement. So we do a Pride logo, flags and all of that. And it's just lovely. It's just, these are the sweetest people. I hope you're convinced, but they're just wonderful. And really, I'm telling you this, I'm in love with these congregants and the way that our cooperation is growing from year to year. And the fact that I was there 5 years before October 7th really enabled me to be a part of their lives, and then they will allow me to also try to be around them after this tragedy, because, you know, they don't want to be around people who can't understand them. And I'm being an outsider, not living in the area, and I wasn't there physically on October 7th, but they know me and we have relationship, and so they will allow me to approach to them. One last thing I want to show you, one other part of the activity that I used to do before is an interfaith work. So when I started working in the area, I joined there are some interfaith groups in Israel. There's one in the north, and there's some, I assume, in the center areas in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the mixed cities, and in Haifa. And there's also an interfaith forum of the south. And we have sheikhs from the Bedouin cities, and we have this priest from Beersheba. There's one small community there. And on the left, I think it's on the left, yeah, you see Radir, I told you about her. She's a Muslim woman, very activist in Israel, and very close friend. I love her. And the one standing next to Radir is Nurit. So Nurit is my partner in Kfar Aza to do activity to the seniors and to the kibbutz all together. And she calls me before every holiday and she says, so what are we doing for Hanukkah? And I said, let's do an interfaith Hanukkah candle lighting. And she was shocked, like she never thought this is possible, and she thought it was a great idea. And so for 2 years we did that, and many, many people came from all the area. And we spoke, each one of us have given a little talk about whatever we choose the topic to be. It could be the light in our tradition, or the miracles in our tradition, or whatever it is that we thought is appropriate for Hanukkah. And so each one of us talked. And people came to me after, people came from all the kibbutzim, and they said, we never heard a person of another religion speak. That's how it is in Israel. Everything is so segregated. So I grew up as a secular Jew. I thought everybody was secular, everybody was Jewish. I didn't meet religious people until my army service. And of course I didn't meet non-Jews. I mean meet in a way that there's a dialogue. I don't mean as service givers, right? But meet like hear spiritual leaders of other religion talk. That's amazing. Adult Israelis your age, never heard. Okay? So this is something I think we need to learn from you, how to live among non-Jews, how to create relationships that are more than service givers, more, not just a far neighbor, but know the neighbor, talk to them, know the culture. And this is something I value a lot, that I have audience for that. People come to these events, they're really interested. It was really important for them. And that breaks my heart to see, because that's in the members club of Kibbutz Kfar Aza, I think partly destroyed. I don't know what the situation in the member club right now, but we had cultural, spiritual, progressive Jewish life in those kibbutzim. We had a lot. And now I'm taking you to October 3rd. October 3rd, okay? That was Chol HaMoed Sukkot. And I got to fulfill a dream I had for many years, which is to have a bar and bat mitzvah for seniors, people who actually never had a bar bat mitzvah in their youth. And I was just dreaming about it, not knowing how I'm going to do it. But then this man, see him, this lovely, cute man, Yoki, he's from Kibbutz Gevim, he's 89. And he comes to every activity I do. He loves to sing, he loves Kabbalot Shabbat, he loves to learn every lecture I give, he comes, he loves it. And so I don't remember what we were talking about, but we said something about bar mitzvah, and he told me, I never had a bar mitzvah, because he was born in 1935, so it was Independence War when he was supposed to be a bar mitzvah, and he never had it. And so I said, you know what? It's never too late. Do you want to have it? And he said, yes, and he's 89, okay? And he said, yes, let's do it. And so his wife, Edna, on his right, joined him. And then the couple on the left are also from Kibbutz Gevim. They're also 87, 86. They're friends, Igal and Yael. They're joined, and here's Danny again in the middle. And we formed this group, and I turned to the regional senior club. There is every kibbutz have their senior club, but the regional council has also a regional club where all the seniors from all the kibbutzim come every day for activity. And I do a lot of activity there. They love me, and they love what, and so I give lectures there. And so I called the manager and I said, are you with me? Let's do this late bar mitzvah event. And she loved the idea. And so I formed a group of these 3 men and 3 women. And so all of them never had, except Dani maybe, but they never had a bar bat mitzvah, the women, of course, and the men just grew up in very secular families, so they didn't have an aliyah Torah. And I taught them to read Torah. And we had a weekly class in this senior club, and they come and they learn like children. They brought notebooks, and they wrote things, and they practiced their Torah reading, and they were so into it. It was just lovely to see. I really, really love these people. And then we had the event, and we said, let's do it towards Simchat Torah, because Simchat Torah is about connecting people to Torah, right, and to tradition. And if we do it on Chol HaMoed Sukkot, then their families can come because it's vacation, and their grandchildren can come and be with them. And that's it. We had it October 3rd. This is the celebration. Their children, many, many people came, the children, the grandchildren, their friends from the kibbutz. It was just, I can't tell you how joyful and lovely this event was. And many people came to me after and said, are we opening a second cohort for that? Because they want to do it also. And here we took a picture outside in the sukkah, and it says, V'samachta b'chagecha, you should rejoice in your holiday. We really rejoiced, not knowing that 4 days after that, what's coming. And this sukkah is also a symbol because, at first I couldn't even reach the area. Everybody was evacuated, and the area where this sukkah was, where most of the regional council buildings are, it's right next to Sderot. Across the street from Sderot, there's a Sapir College, and all the institutes are there. This is where we had this sukkah, and then I couldn't reach the area for about a month. It was like closed. It was completely war zone, and nobody could. But then the first time that I could drive there, and I actually drove by, and the sukkah was like falling, right? That was a symbol to what happened to us, and that we had a life, and it was broken. Like the sukkah was broken, and it was really, really hard to see that as a reflection of what all the people went through. Any questions so far? Because I'm moving to the more tragic part of this. So far, it was just to convince you that this is the loveliest rabbinic position in the world and the loveliest congregation ever. Yes?
I grew up in a war in England, 4.5 years. Now, I was used to soldiers everywhere when I was a little kid. Everywhere. We went to Israel in 92 with 700 of us. We picked up 2 girls, 18, 19. They both had submachine gun type guns. We took them to, pronounce it well, Marishimim, the Orthodox district. They have to roll the sleeves down. At night time, we had dinner at the Hilton. A young man came, his grandfather, Monjo was there. He's got his submachine gun, he's got his gun on there, he's got his clip. And we see all the settlers. Every settler you see has got a submachine gun. They had to run to the armory. When you look at them, there was no security here. There was zero security here.
So you're saying the army is such a central part of the Israeli.
It's the army, but the people living there, when you're living in Disneyland, this is a war zone.
Yeah.
If you don't solve that problem, you're going to have more of these.
Well, it's a big question that you're raising here about weapons and the way they were used or not used. There's a big, big, big difference between settlers that, if you're talking about Jewish settlers in the occupied territories, and between these people who live in the legitimate borders of Israel, and they did have some weapons, but not enough to protect them. And the tragedy, or the terrible fact that we need to explain to ourselves, how come they needed to protect themselves and the army wasn't there for hours? I was corresponding with people on October 7th from their safe rooms, writing to me via WhatsApp, and it was, the whole event started 6:30 in the morning, and at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, still nobody was there to help them. It took 6, 7, 8, 9 hours for the army to reach. So you're saying, how come, the army is such a symbol for Israeli identity? Yeah, well, the whole idea that security comes from weapons and from our ability to carry a weapon and to protect ourselves, that didn't work. And I think that it's a big, big question. How come we give so much attention and this is such a center thing in Israeli society, and there wasn't enough, or it didn't help, it didn't save the people. And so that's a big question that we need to think about and we need to talk about. Yeah. They can't hear you. Do you want to stand up and say it? Wow. Wow. I'll tell you in a minute about these people. I'll tell you about them in a minute. You know them personally. What's your name? Amnon. I'm sorry. Yeah, they want you to, because there's, I'll repeat what you're saying. We have some questions here. If somebody's watching us, I'll repeat that. I'm going to try to be short so I can repeat it and we'll. There was a decision. The armory of the kibbutz. So Amnon is telling us, I'm saying for the people who might be watching us. They decided to store the weapons in the armory instead of people having them in their homes.
Right.
And when people were going out of their homes to get the weapon to...
Can you hear me now? Okay. So no one had the same type of weapons that the terrorists, when they came in. In Kibbutz Kfar Aza, at the time of the event, there were 650 people, kibbutz members and residents, and there were 600 terrorists. So there was almost one by one, and they knew every single step. They also knew that...
Yeah, I'm not sure that the numbers are not precise. I think they had a few hundreds of terrorists,
That's
and
what
there
I
are
was told
900 residents in the kibbutz. But still, it was not
Right.
reasonable for these people to fight. There were like 10 people that are members of the civil guard team of the kibbutz
Right.
that
So what
went to
happened,
get
just
their
to-
weapons. They had to fight hundreds.
Just to finish that,
Yeah.
when the event started, the konenut, the people who were in the security, ran into the safe room
It's called armory.
to get to the armory to get their weapons.
And the Hamas was ambushing them there because
And the
they
Hamas
knew where
knew
it was.
exactly where those armories were stored. And Ophir Lipstein and 7 other ones there, when they came in, there was a vehicle with a machine gun of the Hamas
Right.
waiting for them, knew that they're going to come, and every single one of them was shot like a bird on a wire. No
Yeah,
one.
Thank you, Amnon. I want to continue, and you will see some of these people in the presentation as I go on. But thank you for that note, and I didn't know you're from there, and so that makes the whole. Yeah, you should have told me. But it really makes it different to know that sitting here with us, people who lived in this area and in these kibbutz specifically. Kfar Aza itself has 64 victims and some hashes, as we'll talk about in a minute. So, Amnon, it's not easy for you to hear that and to see that now. What's your name? Cheryl, so Amnon and Cheryl. I'm sharing with you now the after. Let's go a few days before. In October 7th itself, I was supposed to have another bar mitzvah, this time for a youth in one of the moshavim in the area. And the way I heard what was going on is that the mother of the bar mitzvah started calling me at 7 a.m. to ask me if I know what was going on. Well, the bar mitzvah was supposed to be later, so I wasn't in the area yet. And she updated me, and from that minute on, really, all I could do is try to contact the congregants. I have like hundreds of contacts in my phone of people that I know personally and that come to our events, and to start asking them where they are and what's the situation is, and just to learn from these contacts the situation. And it took it took a while before anybody realized the amount and what was going on in this huge, unbelievably event. And from that minute on, I was just for days and calling dozens of people every day. And when they were evacuated to different places, just to kind of get the information, it seems like it's all very organized now, but at the beginning it was such a chaos, and such to even realize who's alive and who's where and who was taken where was just kind of rabbinic work that I didn't imagine I would have to do, to track people, to follow, to see where they are. And then it took a while before they started recognizing, do you say, the bodies, or identifying the bodies, and the funeral period started. And I officiated many funerals in those kibbutzim beforehand. It would usually be a senior person. I didn't have a very tragic circumstances for those funerals, but then now it's completely different, because for the first time I had to officiate funeral for more than one person. So this one you see on the picture, it's actually in kibbutz Ruchama, because Ruchama is a kibbutz in the region of Sha'ar HaNegev, but it's further from the fence, so they weren't even evacuated. So many of the casualties of kibbutz Kfar Aza that couldn't be buried in Kfar Aza because it was still under war, buried temporarily maybe in other cemeteries. And so this is for a couple from Kfar Aza, a man and his wife that were murdered together, that were buried in Ruchama. That was the last of funeral that I officiated. Sometimes it will be a mother and a daughter, or sometimes even a whole family. So again, I know how to officiate funerals, but this is something completely different. And just so you understand, so kibbutz Kfar Aza was evacuated to another kibbutz called Shfaim. It's next to Herzliya, and kibbutz Shfaim has a big hotel, and they absorbed the refugees, the survivors from Kfar Aza. And so the lobby of the hotel became this, how do you call that? Like an operation room, right, of a huge refugee camp. It's a nice hotel, but it became a refugee camp for hundreds of people. And when you come in there in the second week, you can't imagine what it is to come there, to see the people, to look at their face, to try to understand what they went through. And so the beginning was just a lot of listening. I went there without knowing what I'm going to do and who I'm going to see, and spent hours and hours sitting in the lobby of the hotel, where you would normally come to check in for a holiday. But I would come there and meet people, and they would just sit and tell me their stories, dozens of stories, a lot of stories, that I would just listen. And the first rabbinic work was just to absorb and to try to understand, and to, give the support just by listening, by bearing witness. And so on the period of the funerals, there would be this flip chart in the lobby of the hotel that they wrote with a marker. It says Levayot Yom Daled, the funerals of Wednesday. And so the people of Kfar Aza had about 10 every day, because there are many days. They had 64 casualties, and so for many days they had days of 10 funerals from people of the kibbutz. Some are double, some are more, or multiple. And so you can imagine you ask somebody from Kfar Aza, how are you? And say, how can I be? I'm going from this one funeral to another. And the people of Sha'ar HaNegev, as I told you, are one big community. And even if from a certain kibbutz no people were killed, they still know people from other kibbutzim, and they would just go to all these funerals together. So that was what we had for a long period of time until they finished identifying all the bodies. And that's what I was doing. I was sometimes even going to participate in funerals that I didn't officiate, just to be there with the people, just to hug them, to hold their hands, and to be present. I think just the presence. And after the experience of the feeling that they were abandoned, and they were left alone, and they were betrayed by their country, I think that even just the consistency of the presence was something of a healing quality for the people, to know that there's some figures who just go with them all the way. And so I didn't know that I was going to continue to do what I did before, which is, let's say, do a Kabbalat Shabbat for a certain kibbutz. But that was October 13th, so immediately I thought it would take a while before we go back to do like cultural events. But I got a call from Kibbutz Gevim that was evacuated to another kibbutz in the north of Israel called Mizra. And they say, why don't we do Kabbalat Shabbat? We feel that people really need it. And so it was last minute, had no time to plan. My musician that is from Kibbutz Mefalsim didn't function for the whole 2 months at all. And so I had to grab another musician and just go up there planning on the phone on the way, what are we going to do? And I can't tell you the energy sitting out. It was still summer in the kibbutz. Kids are running around playing and laughing, and the parents are sitting and crying. And it was this holy feeling to the moment that we are praying together. And these people, again, I told you, secular people, they're not praying. I never call it a service. It's always just a Kabbalat Shabbat. But you know what? Even if we sing a Naomi Shemer song, Lu Yehi, or we sing Al Kol Hel Ele, just classical Israeli songs, at this time they had a quality of a prayer because it enabled people, the words, to cry out what they feel and what they went through. And so these were very emotional events. And since then, we had every Friday in a different place. I was driving all over Israel. Some kibbutz, Erez was in Mitzpeh Ramon, all the way in the south. Other kibbutz, Nachal Oz, were in Mishmar HaEmek. So I was driving to see them wherever they are and to have these Kabbalot Shabbat. Here's another. Kibbutz Mefalsim was evacuated to a hotel in Herzliya. They're still there, by the way. And we would just go there. And it was, it's a mess because it's not organized and we have to come and start grabbing chairs and making the sound system work and very informal. But it happened and we did it. And it was just really, really moving events to have the people sit together and sing together. And apparently they really, really needed that. Now, moving on to talk to you a little bit about the hostages issue, which at the beginning also we didn't realize how big and for how long we're going to be dealing with this. Now we know the names of the hostages by heart. But at the beginning, it was like collecting the information. And I didn't even know this woman, Tami, she's 86 and she's from Kibbutz Nachal Oz, when I showed you before, the one that is closest. And she also comes to all the Kabbalot Shabbat and all the events. She's a very learned woman and she loves to talk. She's a tough kibbutznik woman and she's very opinionated and everything. And I know her well, but it took me a while to realize that her daughter and granddaughter, which are actually American citizens, that came to the kibbutz that Shabbat to celebrate her birthday, her 86th birthday. And it's a tragedy because many families who don't live in those kibbutzim came because it was Simchat Torah, it was a holiday, and they went to be with their families and with their grandparents or whatever. And so they came from the States, and they were staying in this guest unit the kibbutz gives guests who come to stay. And so I realized that they were abducted. It took me a while to reach out to her and to find her and to meet her. But when we met, she told me their story, and we prayed together. And they were the first hostages to be released. That these two, the woman and her daughter, maybe because they're American citizens, it was easier to put pressure on their release. And that was the same day that I met her, and we were praying together and singing together. And she showed me, you see the note, she started writing poems about the situation. And this is where I discovered that for some people, women mainly, the writing, creative writing of poems and even midrash and stories is a healing tool. And I started suggesting people participating in his writing workshops. And for example, before Pesach, we had a writing workshop for text to be read in this Seder this year because everybody felt that we don't know what to do with this Seder night. So we suggested them to write their own text, and people were writing, and we were publishing it, and we were putting it on a website and on our Facebook page. And so Tommy taught me how powerful writing could be as a healing tool. And here, see Tommy again here. And this is something I want to tell you as diaspora Jews, that we started receiving a lot of missions, solidarity missions, coming from all around the world. I don't know if you can see her because it's a little far, but this is Tommy. She's happy here because their hostages are back already. And she's telling her story. She's sharing the story of her and of the kibbutz with people from the World Union for Progressive Judaism that came. I think you can see Rabbi Sergio over there with a kippah, right? Here he is, if you know him. So we had every week I had like 2 or 3 groups like that, and I would take them to meet the people that are evacuated from the different kibbutzim in my region. Wherever they are, the groups would come and they talk. And I thought I was like bothering my congregants to all the time come and speak to those missions. And I felt uncomfortable to ask them, but they told me, you know what, it's good for us. It's good for us. And then I understood another thing. You see, I let them teach me what's helping in crisis time. How you help people? And they said, you know, the fact that Jews around the world come here, and we know that they care about us, and we know that they want to hear our stories. And again, at some point I thought, oh, enough. How much can they tell the story? Never enough. Never enough. I was wrong. They wanted to tell the story again and again and again, and to have people witness what they have experienced. And I'm telling you, I had so many of these groups, and it was quite a headache to organize those meetings, but I wanted them not to hear me like you're hearing me now, okay? I wanted them to hear the residents and to take them to meet the residents, and the residents were telling them their stories, and that's very powerful. And I think this is one thing that your presence and your care, and it means a lot to the people. It means a lot, I think, to the people visiting to hear this, but it also means a lot to my congregants, again, to feel how interested people from all the world are in their stories and how they care and how they have empathy to this. And so this is one area where I think it's really, really important, the connection between our communities in Israel and your communities could be a very healing effect to all of us, to both sides. And here you see another sort of visiting Mishmar HaEmek, and it says on the sign, bring them home now, and Nachal Oz Abayit Sheli. Nachal Oz is my home. I thought I would go to talk to you a little bit about the hostages issue, because that remains this, the whole thing is a huge wound, but it's still bleeding even more than it would because they're not back yet. And so every holiday that came since Simchat Torah until now, people would tell me, how come it's Hanukkah? We're still stuck in Simchat Torah. How come it's Purim? How come it's Pesach? We're still stuck in Simchat Torah. We can't do any holiday now. We can't celebrate anything. We're mourning. Okay, let's declare this year a mourning year, and let's cancel all the holidays. That's Yom Ha'atzmaut. Let's cancel. People would talk like that. And the only thing that I feel is really relevant and appropriate is the counting of the Omer. These people really relate to, because they're also counting the days. And so when we count the days, for example, today we would say, Hayom Tish'a ve'esrim yom, 9 and 20, 29 days, Shehem 4 shavuot ve'yom echad la'omer. There are 4 weeks and 1 day to the Omer count. And then we would add today is 228 days of captivity for the 128 hostages that are still there, hopefully alive. And this number is coming down every day that counts. So we do that. We do counting, and the counting is horrible. And so I think this idea that the counting needs to bring us to some kind of solving this. Okay, every time we say, okay, so for Pesach we're going to get them out, and for Yom Ha'atzmaut we're going to get them out, and now for Shavuot we're counting the days to Shavuot, hoping that the end of the count of the Omer will end this count as well. And again, as a rabbi, it took me a while to see what could be my role into this. And again, what you see here on the right side is again the lobby of the Shfaim Hotel where the evacuees of Kfar Aza are, and they put up this big sign. As you go into the lobby, you go straight into this sign with the names of the hostages of this kibbutz. They had 19 at the beginning, and all the white stickers they put to everybody who came back. So the stickers, you can't see it from afar, but it says Kfar Aza Bayit Sheli. This is not updated because their two names there, Alon and Yotam, are the ones that were mistakenly shot by the IDF, and so they're back but not alive. But then the red dots are people who are still there. And also I brought this big poster here in front, and you can see these are the 7 hostages of my region, Sha'ar HaNegev. The 2, I think, on this side is Omri Miran on the left, and then Tzachi are in their 40s, and they're from Nachal Oz, and they have young children and families. The 4 young people on the right side are, I want to tell you their names. Can you read the names, Shirley? So Ziv Berman and Gali Berman are twin brothers. They're in their 20s. And then we have Emily Damari and Doron Steinberger and Keith Siegel. These 5 are from Kfar Aza. The 4 on the right were abducted from their, it's called a young age, a young adult neighborhood. So the kibbutz gives these little rooms to people after their army service who come back to live in the kibbutz. So they don't live with the family, they have their own little apartments. And there's a whole neighborhood that is right next to the fence. And so this neighborhood, almost everyone, very few survivors from there, because most of them are either killed or taken hostages, and these are the 4 that are left from there. So, and you see, remember the anemone flower? Yeah, you see it here, it's bleeding. So the municipality have made this logo now with a bleeding anemone flower, and this is not, people tell me, we're not going to be able to recover from this if the hostages are not back. Because even without that, people are so broken, and their faith and their believing in the state that was supposed to protect them was so broken. And they need to feel that this is first priority, and they don't feel that right now. And so this is a struggle, and very fast I understood that one of the things we need to really prioritize in our work is supporting those families and being with them. And so you see in the middle, you see the person with a sign, it's Dani Miran. He's the father of Omri Miran from Nachal Oz, and he's there from the first second and all the time. I go to the Hostages Square 2 or 3 times a week. I meet him there all the time. And you know, sometimes they ask me to say something or do something. Sometimes I just stand here with a sign with them, saying nothing and doing nothing, just being with them and just supporting them in their struggle. And you see the picture on the right is the youth of Kfar Aza organized their own demonstrations in front of the Knesset. The sign says we can't take another funeral because they had so many, I showed you. And so I just go there to support them. It's their event. I don't need to be on the stage. I need to be in the audience. And so they know that I'm with them. That's all I can do. But consistently doing that, I think, means a lot, again, to the people that feel so much abandoned. On the left, you see the survivors of this young adult neighborhood, young people from Kfar Aza. We were doing Chanukah at the Hostages Square. We brought this big Chanukiah. They wanted me to light it. I said, you need to light it, and you need to talk. You can't see this, but there were hundreds of people around us. And we did the Chanukah candle lighting, and I made them talk and do the candle lighting and bring their stories. And you see, they're so sad. They see the sadness in their eyes. And I really want these people to recover. And I think that the hostages issue is really, really the main thing that we should be worried about right now, because there are people still alive there. We need to get them out. We need to get them back to the community. I don't have enough time because I think we're over time already. I'm sorry about this, getting a little longer, but so I'll just do it really, really briefly. I just wanted to show you, I don't know if you know her, on the right, another family. This is Liora Elon, she's from Kfar Aza, and her son in the middle, Tal Elon, was the commander of this civil defense team and also was murdered. And on the bottom, that's his daughter, Gali, and she's 15, only 15 years old, and she was at her grandmother's house and with another cousin, so another granddaughter of Liora, and two of her 4 kids were with her, and they were in the safe room for 36 hours. She's one of the figures that a lot of groups come to Israel, and she's the one giving the testimony, and she's an amazing woman. And you know how resilient you need to be in a safe room, 36 hours, no food, no water, no bathroom, no air, no electricity part of the time, completely dark, with a war going out in her house. There was an unbelievable battle of shooting in their house. And Gali, her granddaughter, 15 years old, heard the army that was in the house, and she realized that they don't know the kibbutz, and they don't know where to go. So she came out of the safe room to kind of call the soldiers and show them the map of the kibbutz. Her phone was the only cell phone that worked in that safe room. Everybody was off and not able to charge their phones or not having receiving. So somehow, miraculously, only her phone worked. And so she started being the kind of commander of that special unit that arrived after many, many hours to send them to the kibbutz and tell, go to this family, go to this family, go there. There are wounded people over there. And so she was kind of a hero of, I think the survivors and the children and the women protecting their children in the safe rooms are the heroes of many, many, many of these stories of how they managed to get through this. And I'm just showing you fast. This is the way Leora's house looked after. One day I called her. I thought she was in Shfaim. And I said, Leora, can I visit you? And she said, no, I want to go to my house in Kfar Aza to visit for the first time after 2 months or something. And I said, Leora, can I come with you? And she said, yes, come with me. And so I started doing this, accompanying people to go to and her house is completely destroyed. And I was just a witness. I cleared the whole day. I didn't know how long we're going to be there and what we're going to do. But I was just witnessing the devastation in her house. And also, she's also a very learned woman. So she had her library over there, and I started taking pictures of the books. See, it says it's a Herzl book, right? The Jewish state on the right. It says Medinat HaYehudim. And it's just a symbol, again, to the life that was destroyed. And you were talking about the armory. So this is the armory, and the kibbutz put up this sign. Can you read it, or is it too far? Yeah. And I told you about the young adult neighborhood, so it looks like that. And they put signs on each of the houses, and many people started visiting there. And there's a whole discussion, is it appropriate for people to come and watch? And that's a whole other issue that we're dealing with. But I got to see that and to witness that and to hear the stories of the people. And the last thing I want to tell you, and we're going to end soon, I promise, is really that a lot of people in this area before October 7th were peace activists and people who believed deeply in peace. And although they suffered a lot from Gaza, they didn't like seeing Gaza on flames, and they didn't like all this bombing. They somehow felt that this is not going to bring them peace and quiet and solution. And so a lot of questions come from these congregants. Can we still believe in peace after these events? And can we still be people who are trying to promote peace? And it's a question, and not, some people like Liora can say yes, although she lost a son, and some other people kind of lost their faith in this, and there's a lot of work to be done on asking the question and seeing if we can find in ourselves place to revive our values and beliefs from before. So what you see here is a picture. Again, a woman from Nachal Oz sent me. It's her house, and it says Ahava ve'achva ve'shalom ve'reut, love and friendship and peace, and another word for friendship. And then you see the bullet hole in the wall. So that's also a symbol for how these events have shaken all of our belief system, not just the communities that lost so many people, also the loss of very basic beliefs that we had before. And I see my role also as trying to hold the disappointment and the anger with the people, but also the hopes and the values that I'm going to skip some of this. Shirley, can you read this because you read English better? Come here. So I wanted to bring you one quote that just to demonstrate kind of text that can help people think of these questions.
This is Aunt Frank. It's a wonder I haven't abandoned all my ideals. They seem so absurd and impractical, yet I cling to them because I still believe, despite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return.
So can we look up to the heavens and believe in that also? I'm not telling you what to think and what to feel and what to believe. I'm just trying to have us go back to really thinking about these issues. And when I ask myself, what can I do for my congregants? Not a lot. I can do very little. But for example, so we got a Torah Scroll donation from the World Union of Progressive Judaism. And that I didn't even imagine how meaningful this event would be. So we decided to dedicate it to the memory of Ophir Lipstein. And we held this ceremony in Shfaim with Kfar Aza and with people from all the the council who came. And dedicating a Torah scroll means people are reconnecting, and finding some inspiration and support from our tradition. And I didn't know how they're going to react to that because, as I told you, these are very secular people. I couldn't believe how powerful this event was. You see Ophir Lipstein's family here, the Epstein family, and the one holding the Torah scroll is Ophir's mother. And she couldn't let go of it. She hugged it so strong, and she felt like it's giving her a lot of powers. And then we had another ceremony with another Torah scroll, and I dedicated to all those heroes of the civil defense teams. And so mostly the widowers and the mother came to the ceremony. And they were, so on the right you see, that's Vered Lipstein, Ophir's wife, and she lost also her mother and a son. The son of Ophir was also murdered. So she's mourning, and a nephew, so she's mourning double for. She's an amazing woman, and I asked them when they're holding the Torah to talk about because Torah is Etz Chaim, where do they get their powers of life from? These women, I can't tell you how resilient, how strong, how amazing. And the things that they said in this ceremony, I will never forget, and I will carry it with me for the rest of my life, because it was so strong and so moving, and I get my inspiration from them, okay? But they were getting inspiration from holding the Torah. Maybe some of them, for the first time in their lives, they get to hold the Torah scroll. That's maybe one little thing that we can do for them, and I'm ending completely with showing you the use we do with the Torah scroll. And this is also a family from Kibbutz Gevim. It's two mothers and a daughter. And the mother on the left was murdered in a different kibbutz in Netiv HaAsara. And still this girl decided to have a bat mitzvah 3 months after. So it was very powerful, a very emotional event, half memorial and half simcha. But she decided to do it, and she read beautifully. And everybody was crying from all the reasons in the world. And that's a symbol for me that going back to life is also important, although we're still in grief and still mourning and still waiting for the hostages to come back. But we still have a bat mitzvah, and we can still pray together. And the last thing I'm showing you is back to the flower. We are closing the circle with a red anemone flower, and showing you that this year, the events of this festival, the Ramadan, the Red South, were all canceled except one, which was a march in memory of Ophir in the hills of Kibbutz Ruchama. And they hang these flags you see on the left. It says the Ramadan, the Red South, Porchim Mechadash, re-blooming. So hundreds, maybe thousands actually, of people were marching on the paths, seeing the flowers and seeing these flags and praying for us to be able to rebloom again. And then another kibbutz who hang up this sign, HaNegev od yeh poreach, the Negev will bloom again. And I believe in those people. They're very, very strong, brave, resilient people. I believe that the Negev will bloom again. I believe that my region is going to go back to life. The pain is enormous. The grief is enormous. But there are a lot of powers of life. And I see my role, and I see you as my partners in this, supporting these people and making sure that when they are ready to bloom again, we are there to be with them, to hear their stories, to hug them, and to rebloom together. Thank you so much for listening and for being my witnesses to that story of this very, very unique congregation and the very unique work that I think that we're doing in those parts of Israel. I admire your patience and your listening. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. I know it's late. Do you want to say more remarks or questions or something that wasn't clear or that you were feeling or thinking as we were going? Yeah, please. But how about a microphone? Did we have a microphone somewhere? Okay.
I just saw a quote
Yeah, give it to her.
My family is from the Falastin.
Oh, wow.
They were founders of the kibbutz.
Oh.
Yes, I know. And he said that there was an Arab man who worked in the kibbutz every day for many, many, many years. And the day of October 7th, he didn't show up. And what he had done is he'd given all the information that he had about the kibbutz. And
Yeah. What's your name? What's your name?
Miriam.
Miriam is telling us that a lot of people from Gaza were actually crossing the border and working in those kibbutzim, And there is a suspicion that many of them were maybe giving information because we know that the Hamas were very well prepared and knowing the kibbutzim from the inside. Yeah, it's a big, big disappointment and heartbreak for the people of the kibbutzim to be betrayed also by their workers. And still, I completely understand that, and still, I think that understanding that not all the Palestinians of Gaza are Hamas people is also a very important understanding for us, because I'm convinced, and I think many of the people of my area also understand, that there are 2.3 million citizens of Gaza, not all cooperating with Hamas and not all involved in these events. And so, again, to the question, can we still believe in peace? What is going to bring security and quiet to the area? Is it the ongoing war, and every year or two another war and another war, which never, ever managed to bring peace to the area? Every war is just creating the next war. I personally, you don't have to agree with me, but I personally believe that the only thing that is going to bring quiet to the area is if we manage, finally to reach some kind of a political solution and agreement with the Palestinian people to that area as well. It's not the direction that Israel is going right now, in my opinion, unfortunately, but I still believe in that, and I still believe that it's possible. Still believe that the solution is not going to be a military solution, because we had so many military events in the area and they never solved the problem. So my personal belief is that we are going to need a political negotiations and solution, and perhaps I pray for a peace agreement that will bring peace and quiet to the residents on both sides of the fence. Any other remarks or questions? Good luck with this. Yeah, we know it's up to us. It's not from heavens. It's Oseh Shalom Bimromav. We can end with this prayer that that's an idea that I had. We talk about God, right? The divinity is making peace upon heaven, Oseh Shalom Bimromav. And then we pray, Hu Yaseh Shalom, he or she or whatever you call the divinity, will make peace here on earth. So we sing, Ya'aseh Shalom, right? He will do. So we are now changing it. I think we should change it to just a slight difference in Hebrew between Ya'aseh, which means he will do, to Na'aseh, which means we will do, because the responsibility to make peace on earth is ours, human beings. We are capable of doing that. We are capable of killing each other forever. That's also true. We have proved that we, human beings, are capable to kill each other forever. But on the other hand, we're also capable of making peace. And it's our choice, and it's our work, and it's our, destiny of life to struggle for that. And I hope you also will be our partners on that.
Long journey.
Long journey.
Yeah.
But we don't despair.
I don't even know what to say. Yeah. Yael, so much pain and so much courage. I think it's too bad you can't stay with us longer. We need to start again, and this time the topic will be, how do we reach this peace? I personally also agree that this can be done. I had written, we have those of you who are members of the congregation know that Yossi Klein Halevi is our scholar in residence, and he came, and he one of the things he says is, you can't get inside the head of the Israelis. You have to understand an Israeli by understanding the soundtrack of their life, which is the music, which plays such an important part in their lives, and in services too. Right. The music, Kabbalat Shabbat, sometimes only the music, like as Yael mentioned, a song by Naomi Shemer is just as good as Ya'aseh Shalom, really. So there's another songwriter, Ehud Banai, who's a very beloved songwriter, poet, basically a poet too. And one of his lyrics, and I wrote them down, and hopefully this can happen. He said, "Only in the darkest skies can you see the smallest star and its light." So perhaps right now we are in that darkest light, but what we have to work for is to be able to see that smallest light. And we need to work together. We need to work together with our partners. They need to work with us. Thank you very much. And the pitch again, please, ARTSA. Please contribute. The more voices we have in 2025 at the next conclave, the better we'll all be. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you so much. There is, of course, refreshments, so please join us.
Yeah.